You've made the transition to senior partner. So you said that it was quite a difficult transition. Are there different skills in stepping into that role?
When you step up into management, you're not in control of your fellow partners. So the tools available to get things done are rather different.
Today's guest is Paul Thwaite. He is senior partner at Stephenson Harwood LLP, one of the UK's leading international law firms, with decades of experience at the top of the legal profession.
Partnership had changed quite a lot over the last 20 years. What factors have actually changed from your point of view?
Obviously now everything's happening at a much faster pace, there's much greater volume, and technology, rather than making things easier, actually seems to just make things more complex.
Obviously you must have been involved in recruiting laterals, and what you think are the sort of main reasons you see as to whether they are successful or less successful?
I think where a lateral doesn't fit in culturally, I think almost certainly they're not going to succeed, but that in and of itself is not the only factor involved.
If you were talking to your younger self and had your time again, would you do anything differently as a lawyer?
It's a very good question, and there are lots of possible answers.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond Billables, lessons from top law firm partners, the podcast where renowned and well-known law firm partners hopefully reveal the secrets of their success. I'm Stephen Rodney, founder of Integrate Coaching, where we produce tailor-made lateral integration programs for partners joining new firms, and formerly co-founder of Fox Rodney Search. I continue to get very good feedback from the podcast, so if any of you have suggestions for guests, do message me on LinkedIn, and also do please press like and subscribe on whatever platform you listen to or watch the podcast, or indeed leave a review. I'm very delighted today that we're joined by Paul Thwaite, senior partner of Stephenson Harwood, one of the leading international independent law firms with more than 1,500 people, over 220 partners across 10 offices in Europe, the Middle East and Asia. A very warm welcome to you, Paul.
Stephen, I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you.
Good. And we're delighted to have you. So I'm very pleased that we found the time to do this. Perhaps I could start, Paul, with asking you, what was your route to being a lawyer initially, and then becoming a partner, and obviously to your current senior partner role?
Thank you. I will start going back to my schooling. I went to a very average comprehensive school in Gloucester. School actually which doesn't exist anymore. It was torn down not immediately after I left, but a few years after I left, been replaced by an academy now, Gloucester Academy.
Okay.
Anyway, it was a school that was fairly unremarkable. It was lucky enough to be taken under the wing of the deputy headmaster, who had the name of John Law by nature. He was a frustrated lawyer who I think had studied law in the past, but had ended up as a teacher. I forget now whether it was him who introduced me to the idea of law, or whether I had shown an interest in law.
Okay.
I can remember as a small child watching a program called Crown Court, which you would have to be very old to remember.
You know what, Paul? You're not the first person to say that Crown Court was a big influence on the deciding to become a lawyer. It was. I remember it very clearly. It used to be 1:30 on a. I think 1:30 in the afternoon. I've got it in my brain.
It was. I think you're right. It was early afternoon, and you only watched it if you were off school for some reason.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Okay.
And there wasn't much daytime TV in those days, so you found yourself watching all sorts of weird things.
Yeah.
Time I can remember being interested in anything related to law or the courts. I think it's Judge Judy these days, isn't it?
Something like that.
Programs. Anyway, John Law, I think, probably should take credit for giving me my first real interest in law. And through him, I was persuaded to apply for law at university at Oxford. And I was the first, and since it got torn down, the last student ever to go to Oxbridge from my school. University was actually quite a challenging experience, having come from an environment that wasn't very academic. It introduced me to lots of interesting people. It developed my interest in the law. From that platform, I was offered an articled clerk's contract at Stephenson Harwood, and I joined the firm in 1992. But you will have obviously worked out that I have never left the firm.
Yeah,
I've been a partner since 2002. So for 24 years now. I thought it was quite ironic to be asked by a former recruiter to speak on a podcast. I've provided your profession with absolutely no business whatsoever in the course of my 30-plus-year career. Well, not directly anyway.
Right. Okay. No. Well, that doesn't exclude you, because I am a former recruiter.
Spoken to many recruiters over the years, but never quite been tempted to make the leap.
Okay.
Yes, having qualified in 1992, I joined the commercial litigation team, which was for many years led by the redoubtable John Fordham, who many
I remember him very well.
City market will know. I knew from an early stage that I wanted to be a litigator. I had no doubt about that, and the Stephenson Harwood litigation team was one of the best in the city, and a great place to learn and grow as a lawyer. I became a partner in 2002, as I mentioned, and whilst I've always sort of dabbled in general commercial litigation, my focus from fairly early on was in construction disputes.
Right.
I remain a construction lawyer to this day, and I have very much enjoyed construction. And you think I haven't moved firm. I've acted for many, many different clients in relation to many different disputes. And I've got to say that's one of the things that keeps the job interesting, and what I've always enjoyed doing what I do. It's the people you meet and the people you work with and for. Construction has a strong group of interesting characters to work for.
Yes, so I'm sure.
I continued as a partner and working, and actually we grew the team. In fact, the team originally started in the litigation department. We also developed a non-contentious team that eventually was spun off originally into our real estate and then into a separate real estate and projects team.
Okay.
But I remained in the litigation department. So
right.
The partner I had grown up under, a chap called Stephen Thwaite, went off to lead the transactional team, and I then led the disputes team.
Okay.
Was a jobbing partner for another 18 years.
Yes.
Through to 2020, and that's when John Fordham stepped down as head of commercial litigation, having done the job for I think 25 years.
Yeah, must at least that, I would have thought.
And I took over as group leader, along with a chap called Ed Davis. The shoes of John were so big, it took two of us to fill them.
Right.
And to be fair, the group had grown in size enormously by then, and I think justified having two leaders, and we've actually split it into two different groups. And then that's a role I undertook 4 years.
Yes.
Until 2024, when I was elected to the role of senior partner. Which a role I took over from another litigator called Roland Ford, who had done the job for a mere 12 years by that stage. But there's a sort of a theme developing of Stephenson Harwood partners doing things for a very long time. And so for the last 2 years, I along with my day job, which I still do, I still practice as a construction lawyer. I now fulfill the role of senior partner.
Okay. And do you getting that role, is that something that you put your hat in the ring for, or people come to you? How does it work, and why did you decide to stand for it?
It's not a role I ever thought I would do. I never imagined. Certainly, when I walked through the doors of Stephenson Harwood in 1992, I would one day become the senior partner. And even when I was practice group leader in litigation, I mean, at that point, I thought that was that was going to be as far as I went. In leadership terms, so it wasn't something I'd ever, I think, aspired to. But when it was clear that Roland was going to be stepping down, a number of people were kind enough to say to me that they thought I should think about it. And so I was encouraged to stand. But as I say, it was not something that I had thought I would do. But having decided to stand, having decided to do something, obviously I want to do it to my best of my ability, and so it was a contested.
It was contested.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did you find that?
3 of us went
Wow.
through
Okay.
the election, actually probably one of the most terrifying things I've ever had to do in my career as a lawyer is stand in front of my peers and colleagues and try and persuade them that they should vote for me for my fellow candidates. It's a genuinely, I think, challenging experience. Not least because also the candidates were friends of mine and colleagues I'd worked with for many years. So it's quite a strange process, and one that I'm glad that I won't have to go through again, I hope.
Yes, okay. And it's interesting because I've had people on who've gone through the same thing, and they have found it stressful, as you said. And have you, in terms of the other candidates, they're still at the firm and everything was fine, was it?
They are still have very good relationships with both of them. I think it's a testament to the caliber of my fellow candidates,
Yeah, I agree.
and also the firm itself, and the way in which we conducted the competition. That and no one has felt that was the end of the line for them. We had all known each other for very many years beforehand, and I hope we shall know each other for many years to come.
So that's really helpful having that background, Paul. So from your point of view, what is being a successful partner, apart from billing a lot?
It's a very good question, and I mean there are lots of possible answers. I have to say, I think the role of partner has become more difficult as time has gone on. Certainly in my 20 plus years as a partner, I think the role that we undertake today has changed very considerably to what it was, and it requires you to have an enormous number of skills, or at least to try and profess to have an enormous number of skills. Obviously, invariably, some people are better at some parts of the job than others. I mean, I think hard work is a non-negotiable. I mean that everyone works very hard.
Yeah.
Obviously, technical excellence. I mean, I think that goes without saying. And as a partner, and indeed as all private practice lawyers, you have to show excellent client service as well. And it's all about the clients and the client needs, and looking after the clients. And we say that we try and be an extension of our clients' in-house legal team. We like to regard ourselves as embedding ourselves in their business, learning as much as we can about their business, and helping them to not just to solve problems when they arise, but also to identify problems, looking ahead, being more proactive. Dispute resolution, it said, is sometimes you can't sell it, and there's an element to which that's true. But we're more than just disputes lawyers. We're problem solvers, and also we're risk managers. And I think to be a successful partner in my area, being able to help your clients, manage their risks and identify what's coming up is all part of the job.
Okay, so you mentioned that you thought partnership had changed quite a lot over the last 20 years. What factors have actually changed it from your point of view?
The world has become a lot more complicated in the last, certainly in the last 30 years. I mean, when I started, in danger of sounding like an old person, but perhaps I am an old person. When I started, we didn't have computers on our desks. You went into the office in the morning. You would have letters. If you were lucky, they'd been opened for you by your secretary. You would read those letters. You would think about the answers and the responses to those letters. You might dictate an answer that afternoon, or you might give yourself a couple of days to think about the answer. A letter would then be typed up, and sometime within sort of 1 to 5 days, a letter would be sent out in response. So it was a much slower pace, and you had a lot more time to think about things. Obviously now, emails arrive. If you haven't responded to an email within 2 hours, somebody wants to know why they've not heard from you. So everything's happening at a much faster pace. There's much greater volume. I think if you got 5 letters in a day back in when I started, that was a reasonable number. Now you're looking at you get 500 emails in a day. That's not an exaggeration. So just managing the sort of volume of correspondence and data is so much more complicated. I think that the role of associate, or the role of managing associates, has become more complex. Associates are more demanding these days, and I don't say that pejoratively. I mean, more is expected of us as employers, both in terms of the professional experience and also in terms of welfare and safeguarding. It's a more complicated, more layered role being an employer these days. And that all falls on the partner. Business development is no longer about going out for lunch with a few long-standing, trusted clients that you've known for many years. But we now have complicated procurement teams and pitch processes, all of which an enormous amount of work goes into preparing and those. So again, as a partner, you're part human resources, part lawyer, part salesperson. You are multifaceted, and technology, rather than making things easier, actually seems to just make things more complex.
It's interesting you say that, because obviously you've got much longer documents probably now than 25 years ago, because they're much easier to amend and add to, and you've got less time, as you said, to answer emails. And I'm not referring to you personally when I ask this, but generally, do you think that the quality of legal advice then can possibly be as good now as it was 25 years ago? Bearing in mind you've got very little time to think about things, and you have to get back to your clients probably with longer answers and longer documents.
An interesting question. I think I could say hand on heart that the quality of legal advice is just as good as it was 25 years ago. There are ways and means of managing the expectations of clients and others, so that to give yourselves time to think about matters that need to be thought about. We have so much more resource available to us now,
right? Yes,
than we had 25 years ago. I mean, the law libraries are pretty much a thing of the past these days. I mean, I can remember as a trainee or as an article clerk being sent up to the Law Society to go and find a law report that wasn't available in our law library if it was in a particularly obscure.
Yeah, so can I.
I mean, these days everything is available at your fingertips within seconds. So we have the ability to find the answer much more quickly than we did in the past. And I think we just got a much the amount of support available to us within our firms, and we have enormous teams within library and information services, and as well as now the enormous amount of computing power that's available.
Okay, interesting. And so, looking at the attributes needed, you've talked about what's needed to be a successful partner. What about, you've made the transition obviously to initially a department head and now to a senior partner. Are there different attributes needed to get into a management role and now into a leadership role than just being a sort of jobbing partner?
So I'd never say just a jobbing partner, because I think it's probably one of the most difficult roles.
Okay. Not from being, again, I wasn't, in your words, I wasn't being pejorative by saying just.
I didn't think you were. I have to say, speaking for myself, I found the step from client partner to group leader quite a significant step.
Right.
The reason I say that, I think as a partner, I mean, certainly in my role as a disputes partner, generally clients would come to me with a problem. We would work together to develop an answer to that problem, or to advise on the legal position, and develop a strategy and a way of dealing with that problem to resolve a dispute or claim or other difficulty. And assuming all goes well, eventually that it's resolved, and in most cases the clients are thankful for that. And it's very much a command and control approach. I mean, the partner normally, is the person with the knowledge and the experience who helps provide the answer, and then has a team that they manage and instruct to implement, to execute that strategy. That's how that's how the process works. When you step up into management, suddenly your command and control structure breaks down, because you're not in control of your fellow partners. Partnerships are very flat structures, and partners generally enjoy their autonomy and independence and don't like being told what to do. So the tools available to you to get things done are rather different, and you move into the world of persuasion, influence, and inspiration, all of which takes different techniques. It often takes more time, and isn't always, doesn't always get the outcomes that you're hoping for. So in that respect, I think it's a very different job. And I think if you carry on trying to undertake the role in the same way that you've always behaved as a client partner, you're going to find that actually the job is much harder for you, because I think you do have to have a different skill set.
And is that so? You said that it was, quite a difficult transition because of these different skill sets that you needed. Is this something that you realised, or before you stepped up, you could see that there were different attributes that you needed, or did it happen on the job?
I've been slightly scarred by the experience because I stepped up in May 2020, which was
okay, right.
The first COVID lockdown, and it was the worst possible time to be taking on the new role. And I have a very vivid recollection of my first group partners meeting, which took place on a Zoom call, very much like this, at a time when that was all very new and we'd only just started doing it. And I don't think I'd ever imagined that my first group meeting would be conducted by video call. And it was a very strange experience. And at the end of it, I remembered signing out and just being sat in my attic at home in a completely silent room, having had no idea how that had gone down at all. There are a few partners who were kind enough to message me afterwards to say well done. But so for the first, really for the first year of managing the team, that I had rarely sat in the same room as all of my partners. And we were having to manage all of the difficulties, the complications, the new challenges thrown up by COVID. And so that really for most of my time as practice group leader, we were still managing the consequences of COVID. It was a difficult time. Although, as someone said to me, it doesn't really matter whether you've been doing the job for 10 years or no years, because actually nothing could prepare you for that time, which I suppose there's an element of truth in it. And you certainly learned quickly. And I suppose the truth, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Well, that sounds like a litigator saying that.
I will say that, and I should be fair to Stephenson Harwood, we were given support during that time. Although inevitably that had to be more remote than I think the firm would have liked it to be. And actually, one thing which I think as a firm we've got much better at over the last 10 years, and certainly during the time that I've been in leadership roles, is helping prepare our talent and our leaders of the future for the role. Because I think historically law firms have been very bad at that, and you're 20 years you're a partner, and then one day somebody taps you on the shoulder and says, now you're going to lead the firm.
Yeah, that's definitely firms I think have got a little bit better at that. So moving then to you becoming the senior partner, and obviously that's a very different role to being a group head. How have you found? I think you've been doing it a couple of years now, roughly.
Yes, just coming up for 2 years at the end of next month.
So
that was another transition.
I said, how have you found the different skills in stepping into that role?
It was another transition, and the big change I found moving from the group leader role to senior partner is that the senior partner role at Stephenson Harwood is non-executive. So my role is akin to being chair of a corporate board. In fact, I chair our supervisory council, which is the elected body that has overall responsibility for the management of the firm. We don't do the executive management. That's delegated to our chief executive, managing partner, and his team.
Yeah.
And having been a practice group leader, which is part of the executive body that runs the firm, I was used to being thrown problems on an almost daily basis and expected to solve them and deal with them. As senior partner, that's not your role. Your role is to oversee, to step in when required, but a lot of it is providing support to the executive team, as well as overall sort of leadership direction and practice. It's a more intangible role.
Yes.
Yes. And I think for for a while it was an adjustment to move from that executive function, where and indeed as a practicing lawyer, where your job is to solve problems, to something which was a bit more intangible and a bit more overarching.
Okay, so I mean, I've had a few senior partners on who have said in their firms that the role isn't really defined that much, and therefore you can kind of, to some extent, make of it what you want to make of it. Is that the case at Stephenson Harwood, or is it kind of written into the constitution? What your role is?
There are some functions given to the senior partner and the supervisory council set out in our members agreement, but that's really only a small part of the job.
Mm.
Roland down and wrote down, last actor senior partner, sat down and wrote out his view of the job description
Okay.
in advance of the appointment process for a new senior partner. That was quite comprehensive, although again it doesn't capture fully what the job involves, and I think that because it's a non-executive function.
Mm.
There's actually a lot to the job that it's very hard to explain it
Mm.
in words,
Mm.
and inevitably, I think that the character and personality that the senior partner goes a long way to how the role is performed. So I think, and actually, one of the challenges, in a good way, has been working out what I want the role to be,
Mm. Mm.
and making it authentic to me as well.
Mm. Mm. Okay, no, that's very interesting. So if we can move now, obviously, as you've mentioned before, I was a recruiter, and now I'm involved in integration of laterals. So I'm interested because obviously you must have been involved in recruiting laterals and seen many laterals join SH. What you think are the sort of main reasons you see as to whether they are successful or less successful?
It's right that I've been involved in the recruitment of many laterals over the years, and particularly in my time as practice group leader.
Mm.
That was one of my responsibilities within my practice group. And actually, and as a firm, Stephenson Harwood has grown very significantly with very large numbers of laterals over the years. I will come on to answer your question, but I wanted to make one point. I think one of the features of Stephenson Harwood, you mentioned we are still an independent. I think there's a very strong identity to the firm, and one of the things that's often commented on is that notwithstanding the large number of laterals who have joined us, we've been very successful in retaining that culture and identity, which I think is a great achievement, although possibly not entirely coincidental, because of course you get to choose laterals, and for us one of the a key attribute for potential laterals is will they fit into the firm, will they enhance, be compatible with our culture. And that's something which we do take very seriously, and I think has been a reason for us maintaining that culture, and indeed enhancing it as well, with the sort of people that we want to join. So personality, getting back to your question, is a big factor in terms of success, and because that then leads to business success, because getting on with your colleagues, being able to work with your colleagues, is, I think, a huge factor in the financial business success of laterals. The lone wolf is never going to be a successful partner at Stephenson Harwood.
Okay, so coming back to my question about what put together some data on the level of success of your laterals, which would be interesting to hear a little bit more about. So when you look at the laterals that you've been involved with, and now as senior partner, presumably you get involved, in meeting laterals from all over the firm, not just from your practice area, and then they join. Just how life works. Some work out well and some work out less well. You've mentioned about the kind of culture and the personality of the lateral being very, very important. Does that mean that the ones who don't work out quite as well you see that in fact they didn't fit in personality wise as much, rather than just the business that they said they would bring didn't come in the way that they said it would.
I think where a lateral doesn't fit in culturally, I think almost certainly that they're not going to succeed. But that in and of itself is not the only sort of factor involved. You're right, and that we have been doing some analysis on the success of our laterals. We spent some time last year looking at every lateral that's joined us in the last 5 years since 2020.
Right. Okay.
And we also did some similar work on our internal promotions as well.
Good, because there's no reason why they should be different.
Absolutely. And so what? Well, a number of themes emerged from the analysis. First of all, we have established that actually laterals who joined during the COVID years, I think, struggled a little bit more than laterals before or after that time.
I think a lot of firms found that, actually.
So which I think goes to show that the importance of working with colleagues and not on one's own, working on one's own. I think also probably difficult as well with clients at the time when it was hard to meet. The first challenge in analysing data is determining what your metrics are.
Correct. Yeah.
And there is obviously a financial metric, but there is also a non-financial metric. When we appraise our partners, we obviously look at both, and so our financial appraisal is based on it's an algorithm that we call the financial contribution indicator, FCI, which is broadly a mix of originated fees, billed fees, supervised work, and also a factor for profitability, which historically I think firms haven't measured so effectively. It's not straightforward, and you can spend your whole life worrying about how to measure profitability, but we've come up with an approximation of the profitability factor that we think is fair to most partners. And then secondly, we appraise what we call wider contribution, which is sort of the non-financial aspects, and we have a set of values and behaviours, a behavioural frame matrix, and that partners are measured against. We've tried to assess partner laterals against those two elements of the partner matrix, and we used a fairly simple mathematical metric for financial performance, looking at how many years it took partners to get to 2.5 times their FCI figure. To get to an FCI that was 2.5 times their REM or greater. And 50% of our laterals took just over 2 years to get to that. In relation to wider contribution, that was a rather more subjective sort of view as to whether or not they'd succeeded in those other areas. And then we combined that to give an overall score. Broadly, and then we allocated each partner a tag as either successful, on the road to success, or unsuccessful.
Right.
So as I say, after 2 years, we had about a 50-50 split between partners who were either successful or on the road to success, and so we had no partners who were deemed unsuccessful after 4 years. So either they had become successful or they had left. So I suppose you've got there a sort of 4-year window. I don't think, but we have got one of the things we are looking to get better at is measuring partners as they work their way through that 4-year window, so that we deal with the partners who are never going to make it sooner rather than later.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously defining who is not going to make it is quite tricky. I mean, I tend to think it can take 3 years. That the laterals, by and large, shouldn't be judged for 3 years, particularly if they've come with covenants. Because obviously they might not really get going for 1 year on it. And it's very interesting, your point about 50% were deemed to be successful. I think that's what you said.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah.
And then
After 2 years.
after 2 years. I think that first of all, congratulations for doing that analysis, because I think a lot of firms have not done that analysis, which amazes me that they haven't. And yes, it's tricky to work out, particularly the wider contribution point, because that is subjective. But as you said before, if you have a partner who bills the sky's the limit and bills huge amounts, but half the associates in the department leave, and in the exit interview they cite that partner, I would say that probably isn't a successful partner overall. So it is tricky to define what success is. Do you think, looking at how you integrate laterals when they join, is that something you looked at as part of your data gathering in terms of how they were integrated and whether that could have been done better?
We've done some. Part of the analysis was breaking down the data by practice group and also by office.
Mm.
I think that what the plan is that we're going to revisit the data and update it on an annual basis. I think until we've done that for 2 or 3 years, it'd be difficult to jump to conclusions about what themes there might be developing. But certainly, I think that will help us to identify if there are areas of the firm where additional support or different approaches is called for. But certainly, in tandem with the analysis we've been doing, we've also been looking at the journey of our lateral partner recruitment and going from an initial sort of introductions to candidates through to that integration. It's a process which I think it's fair to say we are still improving and developing. But so one of the areas where I think we were very poor in the past was we had one team, which we now call talent acquisition, getting partners in. Another team, which was part of the HR function, was responsible for supporting partners after they arrived. And there was, I think, a lack of proper communication and integration between those two teams. We still have two teams, but we've now developed what is hopefully a seamless, integrated process, so that the laterals don't find themselves just sort of being falling between two stools. We've also introduced now mentors or partner buddies who are different to the sponsoring partner or practice group leader, so that there's that sort of peer support along with the team support.
That's very interesting. Well, again, congratulations on looking at it like that, because it is something in a lot of firms. You've put your finger on it; they fall down the crack between the recruitment team and whatever team is supposed to be looking after them after they join. I mean, I do regard integration as the final part of the recruitment of the lateral rather than a separate process. So it's interesting, you're obviously putting effort into making sure those two teams work together. So well, that's very interesting. So, and thank you for sharing all that with us. I'd like to come back to you personally a little bit now. I don't know whether you could share a couple of the best moments you've had as a partner and maybe a couple of the less good. And you're not allowed to talk about when you were made. Well, you're not allowed to cite the best moment as to when you were made senior partner or something like that. That's too easy. What do you think to those?
So I had to think about what I would cite as my best moments. I was just in general terms. I mean, it's perhaps a bit too easy to say, but nothing beats winning a client pitch. The thrill of getting in a new job or a new client. I think that's something that you, doesn't matter how long you've been doing the job, it's still an exciting moment. It's part of why you do the job. But actually, I think the most satisfying moments for me are seeing my trainees and junior lawyers grow up to become senior lawyers and eventually partners. And I take enormous pride in our own homegrown talent, seeing them develop into the partners of the future, and in due course the leaders of the future. I mean, that is the lifeblood, and that's, I think, the true legacy that we all leave behind. I mean, one day Paul Thwaite will have retired, and me and maybe some of my clients will have moved on and be forgotten. But the people I leave behind, the partners who have trained under me and grown under me, they're the true legacy. And so that gives me enormous pleasure to see that.
Okay. And what about a couple of the less good moments that you can talk about? I've had, so just to give you an example, there's someone in that podcast, the podcast has come out, who talked about, and she was a litigator, being told off in court by a judge once about the state, something to do with the case. I can't remember. She cited that as one of her less good moments, and she made sure that never happened again, kind of thing.
I was going to tell a short war story.
Go on then. Yes, please do.
And I see from your bookcase that you are an Arsenal supporter.
I am, and I'm not sure at this precise moment how I'm feeling about that. But yes, I am.
You'll feel fine, because I'm going to tell you a story about Chelsea Football Club.
Okay.
So you might remember that in the early 90s, Chelsea Football Club was for most of the 90s, Chelsea Football Club was in quite a lot of financial trouble.
I do.
Before Roman Abramovich came along. And back in the day, Ken Bates, I think, was chairman of the club.
Yeah.
And he took the decision to create a company called Chelsea Pitch Owners. And Chelsea Pitch Owners was granted an option to buy the pitch at Stamford Bridge.
Right.
And that was in the early 90s. And then in the I think it was the mid 90s, mid to late 90s, I think there was further financial restructuring of the club was undertaken. And as a result of that, the Chelsea Pitch Owners was given them, or acquired the funds to acquire the pitch. And so the freehold of
just the pitch, not the stadium, just the actual pitch.
I think it's the pitch, and I think it was. I can't remember now whether it included the stadium, but certainly the pitch. Certainly the pitch. Importantly, the pitch. The freehold of the pitch is from that day forth fell into the ownership of Chelsea Pitch Owners. In return, the club was granted, I think, a 199-year lease of Stamford Bridge. And that was the deal that was done, and there was an injection of capital into the club at that point. I think, just as an aside, the name of the club, Chelsea Football Club, is also owned by Chelsea Pitch Owners. Right. Anyway, so Roman Abramovich comes along and buys Chelsea Football Club, and he has a plan to move Chelsea to a new site. I think they looked at Battersea and other sites. 9 Elms, and he had not, I think, taken into account the feelings of the Chelsea Pitch Owners. So the shareholders of Chelsea Pitch Owners are almost all they're all Chelsea fans, and they have quite strong feelings about.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so Abramovich he had to persuade Chelsea Pitch Owners to sell the pitch to him, so that he could move the club. And under the articles of the company, they needed a 75% vote of shareholders in order to sell the pitch.
Right.
I'd done some work for the then chairman of the club, who was in the property and construction world. He needed some advice on the situation, because the board was recommending sale. And so I was brought in. I brought in one of my corporate partners to help, and we advised Chelsea Pitch Owners on this potential sale of the pitch. And we were called to an AGM of Chelsea Pitch Owners at Stamford Bridge. And we're sat on a stage in a boardroom. Dennis Wise is also on the stage, actually. It's the only time I've shared the stage with a professional football player. And we have what must be about 200-300 very agitated Chelsea fans in front of us, who are our shareholders. And one by one, they stand up and express their views in extremely trenchant terms about why Stamford Bridge will never be sold. Some of them not content with standing up, would walk forward, often
Right.
gesticulating quite angrily at that situation. We had a couple of very large security details in front of us. And at the end of the
Okay.
meeting, which was highly charged, to put it mildly, we ended up having to be escorted
Oh
from
my
the
God.
room by
Right.
the security, because our safety was not guaranteed. And it's the only time I have actually slightly feared for my safety in a professional situation. And they didn't get the vote, and they didn't get 75%. I think they got something like 60 odd percent.
Right.
But they failed to get the required majority, and Stamford Bridge and Chelsea Football Club remain.
Yes, is that why they've remained? Because I know you mentioned I remember that they were looking at Earl's Court or something at one point.
Yes.
Because I remember that got publicity. I mean, as you were telling the story, what was going through my mind is, why didn't Roman Abramovich just open up his checkbook and just throw a lot of money at it? But maybe that wouldn't have been enough.
I think it was one of those situations where money wasn't enough. I think that's the bit he hadn't quite
Right.
got
But
his head
he wasn't
around.
used to that. That's a
He said he wasn't
situation.
used to that. There he is.
Excellent. No, that's a very good story. So you presumably left that and had a few stiff drinks after that, I imagine.
Yeah, having got ourselves out of the area.
Oh dear.
I don't think my corporate partner has ever forgiven me for getting him into that one.
He wasn't one of the ones that stood against you to be senior partner for that reason, was he? Okay, good. Well, no, that's a very good one. I like that. Thank you very much. So, if you were, maybe you can answer this question related to that story, but if you were talking to your younger self and had your time again, would you do anything differently as a lawyer in your career to date?
Apart from not accept instructions to act for Chelsea pitch owners, I think my advice would be to take a bit more time off. I've come from a generation where it was expected that you would sort of work long hours and take 2 weeks off in the summer. As I mentioned, I think the job has become more difficult. So one of the things I didn't mention is it's become more all-encompassing as well. When I started, when you went home at the end of the day, that was it. There was no mobile phone, no emails, no mobile. It's an all-encompassing job. I think it can wear you down. I'm one of those partners who I'm afraid of lawyers who looks at my emails, does work on holiday. It's not healthy. So I think I would advise my younger self to take more care of my physical and mental health. And we run a sabbatical scheme now at Stephenson Harwood, and I do encourage everyone to take advantage of that. So I think and you come back recharged and refreshed, and which I think is hugely important. You have to be at the top of your game.
Yes. I can well, I think that's very interesting advice to your younger self. Carrying on the subject of the complexity of the job. I mean, looking ahead, how do you think? And there's two sort of particular areas that I just wanted to touch on. One was AI and how that is affecting the role of a partner, and private equity. Obviously, is something which is being spoken quite a lot about. Although very recently, I've just started seeing that the private equity guys have kind of gone off trying to invest in a big law firm a bit more because of they realized it won't necessarily work. But I'm interested in both of those, how you feel about those.
AI is here already. It's already impacting what we do, and just as importantly, it's impacting what our clients do and how they do it. And even if you thought it wasn't going to change your own life as a lawyer, you at the very least ought to be concerned about how it's changing your clients' lives.
Yes.
I was having a coffee with a client this morning who was telling me about the many ways in which she is using AI, and it really brought it home to me how we absolutely it is going to change everyone's world. Not in the future. It's changing it now.
Yeah.
I mean, how it changes it is obviously the the big question. Endless products on the market. I mean, at Stephenson Harwood, we do use Harvey, which I think is probably the market leader. But we decided a while ago that we were going to sort of run with several options, and we are also developing our own AI platform in conjunction with a technology provider who provide what I now learned is called a white label solution. And so we thought it was really important for the platform to be developed by us and by our lawyers. I think that is an important part of the AI journey, that it's not just about technology. It's not even really about technology. It's actually about how we each do our job. And we've challenged every practice area to think about what are the use cases in their area, and to come back to us and tell us, because I think it is, it's very the way in which it will be used will vary very much from industry to industry and practice. So there isn't going to be a sort of one size fits all.
No.
And we will expect every partner. We haven't quite got there yet, but I think in due course we'll be appraised on how they're responding to the challenge of AI.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard that, but so that's interesting. I haven't heard that from other partners, but I think that makes a lot of sense. And I presume it's also going to affect how you recruit people. Just how switched on they are on the AI front. It's quite important.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be one of the it's going to be one of the sections on your form that you're filling out. What the partner's attributes. So going back, I mean, you asked earlier what will make a successful partner, or what makes a successful partner. I think to the ever-growing list of skills and attributes, we will have to add AI capacity.
And in terms of private equity, I'm not expecting you to reveal on this podcast exclusively that Stephenson Harwood has sold itself to Apex or something. But what you as the senior partner, obviously, you're the kind of keeper of the firm's culture. I mean, that's one of the roles that the senior partner has, and the protector, if I should say, governance and all that. So, what are your thoughts on private equity? Could you see it happening to a firm like SH, an investment of some sort?
I think probably like every other firm and every other leader you've probably spoken to, we've had conversations with either with private equity firms themselves or with those who advise on private equity. Not least because you get a lot of calls, and it would be negligent of us as leaders not to find out what was on offer and what the options are. I think it may have been said by one of the other interviewees on your podcast, actually, that PE itself is not a strategy.
No.
The question is, will PE help you with your strategy? As Stephenson Harwood, we've got a very clear public strategy for growth, particularly international growth, but also looking to grow in the UK. And so that obviously has, there's a cost that goes with that. But having said that, I mean, I don't think we are yet in a position of even thinking that's PE is something that we would need or be interested in pursuing in support of that growth strategy. There are other ways of funding a business. We're always reviewing the funding of the firm.
Sure.
But the giving up of, I mean, with PE, you're not just, it's not just a cost of funding, it's also the cost of what else you're giving up. And I think independence and autonomy are two very important attributes for our partners, along with the culture. And I think we're not going to give that up readily. So I suppose never say never, but
yes.
it's not something that's sort of on our agenda in the near future. But we obviously keep things under review. I do understand how the PE model works, perhaps for smaller firms, and obviously one of the ways in which PE creates value is by consolidation. In sort of the lower mid-market, I'm sure we will see a lot of PE backed.
Well, I think that's happening now. I mean, there was just one announced the other day of in Reading, I think, a smallish sort of £70 million firm being acquired by Blix, the Blix backed group. So I can, that's kind of lower mid-market that you're talking about. So, and that's part of a consolidation and a sort of roll-up strategy. So that's more traditional sort of PE, and you can see how that could work. But as soon as you said on here that culture is very important, immediately you think, well, how would you retain that if you had an external investor changing and your partnership became effectively a corporate? That would be very tricky to do that. So that's interesting.
You should never regard yourself as exceptional or unique, but I do think that lawyers they're a certain breed, and I think there's a reason why we haven't so far as a market and industry gone in the direction of the accountancy firms.
The accountants, yes.
And I think that there is a strong sense of independence.
Yes. Well, and long may it continue, I think a lot of people would say. So we're coming towards the end now, Paul, of what's been really fascinating. So I've got a couple of last questions which I often ask guests, which are very simple questions and just always interested to hear your thoughts. The first one is, what are your 3 non-negotiable behaviours for you and your team?
Honesty and integrity, I think, is key to what we do, both as lawyers, but in the way we behave with each other as well. We have to be able to trust each other, and that goes both ways. And we often talk about being transparent with our team about sort of their careers and I'd say even disputes lawyers are very reluctant to give bad feedback or negative feedback, and I think we should be more honest with people, but also expect our team to be honest with us as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
I think really key quality is resilience, expect the team to well and just to grit. I think is the old-fashioned word grit.
Okay.
I think there's a lot to be said. Grit is a big determinator of success.
Excellent. No one said that before, so I like that. And what's your one golden rule then to be a successful partner?
You've got to enjoy it. Otherwise, why would we do it?
Yeah.
So enjoy it and stick with it if you do enjoy it. But if you don't, think of something else.
Do something else.
I'd be lying if I said I enjoyed every single second. But in the main, I get up in the morning and I look forward to coming to work, and I enjoy what I do for a living.
That's really interesting to hear, Paul. And thank you for being our guest on Beyond Billables: Lessons from Top Law Firm Partners. As always, it's been extremely fascinating to hear from someone in your position what makes a successful partner, and thank you again for making the time to speak to us. It's been very, very interesting indeed. So join us.
I've really enjoyed it.
Well, good. Thank you, Paul. Join us on our next episode of Beyond Billables: Lessons from Top Law Firm Partners, when we'll have another top partner who will share their secrets of success. And please don't forget to like and leave a rating for the podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen to it. So see you next time.